Hey guys, what's up? This is Casey. This is Coach Tom. This is Shot Science Overtime number 96. We're going to do what we do every week. We're going to have our topic that we talk about at the top of the show. And while we're doing that, you guys are going to be sending us your basketball questions. It can be on anything: shooting, dribbling, passing, defense, how to talk to your coach, how to improve your vertical jump, whatever. Make sure that you send those to us right now. Twitter is the best place to catch us. We are at Shot Science there. You can also catch us on Facebook, Google Plus. You can send them to us here in the Google Plus app on this live stream. And you can also catch us on the comments of the YouTube video for this video that's streaming right now. And we will try to get to everybody's questions. Best place, though, is Twitter. And it would be awesome, too, if you guys would go out there, tell your friends and family to catch the shows, because that helps us get more cool guests and do more cool stuff for you guys. So please go out there and tell your friends and family to watch the show, too. It helps us grow the team. Okay. So today's topic that we're going to talk about at the top of the show is something that we talk about all the time, and that is that people always are asking us if they have to have their elbow in when they shoot. And classically, coaches will always say, jam your arm in and get that elbow in, blah, 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 whatever. And, there's some truth to that, because you don't want your elbow to be way out, because that will cause, your shot to be really flat.
Right.
But you also have to kind of think about your ergonomics and comfort when you're shooting too. So you don't want to necessarily jam everything in so that it's an uncomfortable fit, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So what do you think people should do?
Well, one of the things that we teach all of our students is that we want the fingers of your shooting hand to essentially be pointed straight up and toward the basket. And if you do that, the elbow is going to be in. I've read calculations other people talk about, and I think it's pretty accurate, that the elbow is going to be hanging out from plumb. Plumb is straight up and down. It's going to be hanging out about 10 degrees. Anytime we go in any more than that, then the entire shoulder starts to take and tighten up, and that creates a problem for us when we shoot. If we just let it hang naturally and get those two fingers up, then we're probably going to be just about where we need to be. Don't force it in. That's not really good at all, because that binds up the whole shooting motion.
Well, here's a few things too first, before we get real deep into it. One thing that you need to make sure that you're doing is that you have your body slightly staggered towards your shooting side.
Right.
If you have your body just straight up and down, if you try to jam your arm in there, that's essentially going to make things really tight and tense. Right. And what you want to do is open up your stance a little bit and get your shooting side so that it is more advanced of your non-shooting side.
Right.
That way, when you try to kind of get your elbow in, that's going to really kind of feel a little bit more natural than trying to pull it in the middle of your body.
Right.
Because your arm is not in the middle of your body anywhere. It's on the side of your body. So you really want to make sure that you're kind of getting that influence of your right side, or whatever your strong side is, into your shot. And one of the things that you talk about all the time too is that you don't have to jam your hand in behind the ball like this.
No.
If I try to do that, I feel tons of tension right here in my elbow and everything, and lots of tension up here. And that doesn't feel good when you try to go up into your shot, because everything's going to be real tense. So what you want to make sure that you're doing is that you have that slight tilt to that side, and then you have your hand essentially like this, where you are looking right through this little Y that your hand creates. And what we call that is the yoke.
The yoke.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're holding the ball, you're essentially holding it, and I can see daylight underneath through my palm right here. And, in comparison, if I try to jam my fingers back behind, that's what it looks like. But if I have this little yoke set up, what happens is that it might look like I'm going to not have a good follow through when I go up for the shot. But what happens is that when you actually elevate, your hand starts to turn over as you go up into the shot. And when it does that, you actually get the right follow through where it comes off these last two fingers last. And, that's really kind of the best way to get that, so that your arm is ergonomically kind of comfortable, but it's also kind of getting that elbow in. You don't have to have your elbow jammed in straight up and down. That's kind of a little bit of a misconception. But you also don't want it out like that either, because when that happens, you get that crossbow effect, and the ball essentially is going to be a real flat shot.
Yeah.
So it's okay to have it in here, kind of in this range is fine, right?
Yep, yep. Out to about 10 degrees probably is really good. You know, one of the things that comes out of having that elbow out, and I see it an awful lot. I work with a young man this morning, and that's kind of where his is out. And we made that correction, and all of a sudden the shot started to drop for him very consistently. That's not the only thing that creates poor shots, but the elbow in really helps a whole bunch. And, you know, there's one guy that comes to my mind. In fact, two guys that are professional players that come to my mind when I think about the elbow out. One of them is Sean Marion, who
he's got a lot of issues.
He's got just really strange kinds of shooting elements, and he's really not that effective.
Well, he's fine. I mean, he's put a lot of work into it, but it's not.
Well, he's passable, let's say. He gets by with it, but he probably could be so much better if he had better shooting mechanics. And then
he would definitely get more space that he could create on the shot for sure.
And one of the other guys that probably is one of the all-time shooters in the NBA is Reggie Miller. Reggie Miller shoots with the elbow out, and he shoots a real flat shot. But the thing is that we don't recommend that you mimic those guys in any way because they probably spent, hundreds of thousands of hours shooting the ball the way that they shoot it. And so I'm not talking about Marion, but probably more Miller, that they can shoot the ball really effectively with that elbow out.
Yeah, you want to start with kind of the best foundation that you possibly can. Right. And, you know, the other thing is that it is true that if you put the work in probably with any kind of mechanics, you're going to get better and better and better and better.
Yeah.
So, you know, you could be a right-handed shooter and shoot with your left hand. You could probably eventually get to the point where your offhand is a really good, choice for your shot. But is that the best way to set yourself up for the most potential? That is probably not the case.
Well, the thing that makes really good sense to us really is that if you can find an acceptable shooting motion, and you accept ours, accept somebody else's whom you feel really good about, and then really work on developing all of those mechanics, your shot is going to improve. There's no question about it. We just feel like a lot of things that we teach, in fact, most all the things that we teach are kind of, to take Casey's term, ergonomically very effective in getting you to be successful with your shot. And so elbow in is a real important part of that. The thing that always comes to my mind, we teach to this too, is the fact that if the elbow is going to be out, you're going to be shooting a flat shot. And as a result, the size of that basket is going to be reduced considerably in its diameter when the ball gets there. So what you want to do is keep that elbow in and always elevate your shot. You want to elevate that elbow so that it finishes higher than your eyes, and that is going to give you the arc that you really need. So there's some kind of poor things that come out of elbow out, and so we would really encourage you to get them in to be more effective.
Yeah, and a lot of people probably start off and have that as part of their mechanics because they're not strong enough, and they're trying to shoot from too far away.
Yep.
So one of the things that we always tell people is that you want to start off using the form shooting drill. Start off really close, get all your mechanics dialed in at those close spots. And once you do that, you master those close spots, your mechanics look nice, take a step back, and then you start doing it from that spot and master that area. And if you do that progressively, as you step back, your mechanics aren't going to degrade. And so you're not going to have to do those heaving shots or those elbow out, ones where you just wing it from way downtown. You've actually put in the work to have your form stay the same as you move back.
We had a student this morning that worked with, and he was new. This is the first time that we had seen him. And he came in and he was shooting the ball. You can't see my hand very well, but he was shooting from about the middle of his chest. And it's really hard to get the ball, the elbow in when you're shooting the ball that low. But what happens is that then you end up with that elbow out and the shot is just really flat. One of the first things that we did was to take and have him bring the ball up so it's under his chin. He doesn't happen to be a very big guy. And so he was getting the ball down and probably had it down like that for his whole basketball career. But as soon as he got the ball up under his chin and the elbow came in, he started to hit the shots more consistently. And so that really is an important consideration for having that elbow in, is that it's going to make you more accurate as well with a much better arc.
Yeah. And so, the thing that we always try to instill in everybody that we talk about when it comes to shooting is efficiency.
Yeah.
And when you are doing things like you have your elbow out, or you're bringing the ball down or whatever, these things are inefficient. They are not going to give you the most fluid, the most kind of basic motion that you can possibly have for your shooting. And what happens then is that you've added in variables, and these variables make your shot more complex and less easy to repeat. And when your shot is not repeatable, then your accuracy is going to go way down. And accuracy, of course, translates into points. So what you really want to have is just a super streamlined shot. And if you watch somebody like Stephen Curry, he has a super streamlined shot. There's not a ton of bells and whistles going on. He's not doing all these little knick-knack things to make things happen. Everything is fluid from feet to follow through. It's just one consistent motion. And part of that is getting that elbow not necessarily jammed in, but in kind of like that shooting pocket area. And the secret tip is that yoke. People think they need to get their hand twisted in behind the ball. You don't need to do that. You really want to just focus on getting that yoke right in front of your shooting pocket eye. And then as you go up, your arm is going to turn over as long as you elevate above your shooting eye. If you don't, and you come down here, you're going to have that flat shot anyway. So you want to make sure that you have the yoke here. And as you come up, that assist hand falls away and your hand turns over and you follow above your shooting eye. Right?
Yep. Right on. Right on.
And, that's a lot of people have no idea that that's okay to do. They try to get that hand jammed in there, and that's really tense on your arm to do that. Yeah. It doesn't feel good. Do things that feel good and make you less tense. Okay. So that's going to do it for that portion of the show, you guys. And hopefully that is a little tip that will help you guys when you're trying to put together your shooting mechanics that will really kind of make things more comfortable. And we think that that's an important thing that people don't necessarily learn maybe ever, and maybe they just naturally start to do it once they've been playing for a long, long time. So let us know how that works for you guys. And if you have more questions on shooting, just let us know for sure.
One thing I want to throw in here, Casey, is thought occurs to me, and I get this question quite a bit. The question is, I've tried to do what you suggested in your videos, and I just can't make it work. Well, one of the things that I'm sure that goes on when people are trying to learn how to shoot the basketball or improve the way they shoot the basketball is they expect that it's going to be happening right now.
Yeah, nothing happens immediately.
No. And what you'll find is that this young man I was talking to this morning, we were talking about the release and having that nice soft release with the wrist. And his is kind of in between. It's not a snap, but it's not a real relaxed one either. And so the thing that happens is that relaxed wrist probably takes an average person about 3 weeks to kind of get it down. But once you get that down, then that ball becomes a lot more soft. And that's true with all the elements, getting your arc into the shot, getting the nice finish with the fingers, all of that stuff. It takes time, and there are no secret tips on how to get there. It just takes a lot of hard work.
Yeah, well, I will say this too. It's one of those things where it might not happen immediately, but
Right.
you might get some immediate feedback where it starts to work for you.
Yeah.
Because you start to dial it in, and that might take a day or 2 or 3 or whatever.
Right.
But it doesn't become muscle memory and something that you do naturally for weeks, because you have to get that repeated response back into using that motion. If you don't do that, then you might work on it for 3 days and then pick it up again 2 weeks later. It's not going to be there.
Right.
But if you've worked that entire way through, you can have that form become your form.
Well, another part of that whole thing too is that sometimes we will have fallback. We'll practice and everything is looking really good, and then we'll get to that one day where we can't hit the basket for anything. And usually it's some little tick that's worked its way into our stroke that's keeping us from being successful. And so one of the things that we think is really a good idea is to video yourself when you're shooting. And by videoing it, you can actually look at yourself and you can examine the stroke mechanics and see if there's anything that's amiss there for you. I just think that you can't do enough about examining your own shot. Now, the obvious thing is I can watch other people shoot, but I haven't got any sense of what I'm doing exactly. I got a pretty good idea, but then when you really take and observe it in a video, oh, yeah, I see that now.
Yeah,
And so those are really good things to do.
yeah, and you want to be your own best coach, because if you have the ability to evaluate your shooting mechanics or any kind of your basketball performance or anything like that, and you have the ability to kind of evaluate that stuff, you are going to be in really good shape, because you are with yourself 24 hours a day. You might have a coach for a limited period every once in a while, but that's never as good as you being able to make those adjustments yourself. So be able to look at your shooting mechanics and make the appropriate fixes. And we have a video that shows you kind of how to do that. If you watch the video Fix Your Shot, we show you how to kind of look at where the ball is going and all the different fixes that you can put into there. Right. Okay, so is that it?
Yep.
Okay, that was the
little aside,
the encore.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump right into your guys' questions right now. If you have questions that you want to ask us, send them to us on Twitter. We are at Shot Science there. You can also leave them in the Q&A app here on the Google Plus stream, or you can leave them in the comments on the YouTube video for this video, and we will do our best to get to everybody. Okay, so let's see here. I think I'm going to go to Twitter first, because I think we had a bunch of questions sent to us earlier today. This one is from Jay, who is at JDBK on Twitter. He says, hi, this is for the Q&A. Is there any way to train shooting while at home? Sadly, there aren't any open courts where I live.
Well, one of the things that I often recommend to people when they're talking about having those kind of difficulties is to find themselves a wall that's fairly tall. And if you're around gymnasiums, usually the walls are kind of taller, and you get up and you can actually work just by shooting the ball against the wall and work on your mechanics that way. It doesn't have to be in a gym or around a gym. Maybe you've got a building that's nearby that's an apartment building where you can find a place where you can just take and put that thing up and just work on your shooting mechanics that way. And you can be pretty effective with that as well.
Yeah, just, doing that kind of stuff is great, but you also need to be creative and figure out a way to get either to a gym or get a hoop at your house.
Yeah.
Or whatever, or go to the playground. I don't know if it's wintertime where you are or whatever, but you need to figure out a way to make it happen. A lot of people kind of just are complacent about it and like, oh, I can't figure out a way to make it happen. Well, all the guys in the pros, they lived in places where they probably didn't have a basketball hoop at their house. They didn't have, sunny weather most of the time. They figured out a way to either get to a gym or work out a deal with a coach or whatever, where they were able to get their time in. So we would suggest the same thing. Figure it out.
Figure it out. That's right. FIO.
Okay. This one is from Wojciech, I guess, who is at BojoSTR on Twitter. He has a couple questions. He says, first, how should I practice to develop quicker and more stable spin move?
Well,
it's all footwork.
It is footwork. There is ball handling that comes into play on the spin move. Some of the things that happen when people are using the spin move is that I think is not good, and that is they carry the ball. They're dribbling with their right hand, and let's say they're going to take and spin to their right. What they do is they leave the ball and they pick it up with the left hand and carry it through to bounce it on the other side. Number one, that's a violation of the rules. That's carrying the basketball, and it should be called, and usually is. The other thing is that when you do that, it's the execution of the spin move is really slow. What we teach is this: is if I'm dribbling the ball to the right and I'm going to spin back to my right side, I guess, that I reach over the ball with my dribble hand and I pull it. And I keep it close to my body and low as we pull it. So I want the ball to be out in front of me when I turn to pick it up with the other hand. And so that's not that carrying thing. What you do is you dribble, reach over the top as you spin and pull the ball hard so it stays close to your body. And when you turn, you have to reach out to get it. That makes it much more explosive. It also keeps the defender from being able to reach around behind and tap it away. And also for them to get out in front of you. And so those are things I think are really important on being explosive with the spin move, is how you use your feet, as Casey mentioned, and the other is how you dribble the basketball.
If you go watch our video on how to do the spin dribble attack,
we
show you exactly how to do that. But the key really is the footwork and then getting your hand over the top of the ball and pulling it. You're not palming it. You're not doing any weird manipulations with it. You're essentially just putting your hand over the top, keeping it on the top hemisphere of the ball, and pulling it out as you spin around. You don't want to get that other hand underneath and carry it over. That's a travel every time.
Right. And yet that's how most young people execute that move. The hand is under and they tend to carry a ball around to the other side. And it is so slow. And if you want to be explosive on that, you reach and pull the ball really hard as you spin, and you'd be surprised how quickly you can make that move.
All right. Question number 2 is, how can I develop a stronger and faster two-hand chest pass? I think a lot of that is stepping into the pass, and making sure you snap. And also, when you do it, your fingers essentially should go with your thumbs down, and you should finish out like that, and it should just snap. And a lot of it is just stepping into the pass, and we got the sirens going on in the background. But step into it, snap the ball out. Okay. Number 3 is, when I'm fresh, my shots are pretty good, but in the third to fourth quarter, most of them are too short. How should I work on this? Thanks.
Well,
we get this every week.
Yeah. The only way to be effective as a shooter in those waning moments of the game, when you're gassed, when you're really tired, is to spend a whole bunch of time shooting at game speed in practice situation. And what that means is that you try to mimic what's going on in a basketball game. Maybe you have a defender on you, maybe you don't, but you're executing at full speed. I spent some time this morning with a young lady, and it was like slow motion when she was going to the basket. And so if you just take and work on a much higher speed of execution, number one, you become better with your hands, number one. And number 2, you're going to find that in a game situation, you're going to be much more effective if you have practiced at high speed. You take a look at how shots are generated during a basketball game. It's usually very quick, very explosive. You catch, you go. You catch, you attack, and you've got to be able to get up and finish the shot, whether it's a jump shot or lay-in or whatever, at a high rate of speed. So if you never do that, and all you do is practice at a practice speed, then you're going to be very poor and ineffective in those game situations, particularly late in the game.
And I think the other element of it too is that you practice game speed, game intensity, but you also condition as you're doing those things.
Yep.
So a lot of times what people do is they'll go into the gym and they'll work on all their free throws in the very, very beginning just to warm up or whatever. And then they never shoot a free throw again for the rest of their practice or a workout or whatever. What you want to do, or what happens when you do that, is that when you get into a game and you're in the third or fourth quarter and you've kind of exhausted yourself, and when the shots really count, you go to the line and you have nothing there and you haven't experienced that before. What you want to do is train so that you are experiencing that kind of fatigue as you're working on your shooting. So instead of shooting just free throws at the very beginning of practice, you want to shoot them at the beginning. You want to shoot them in the first part, in the middle, near the end, and to finish off, so that you can have that experience already, and you know how to make those shots when you're tired. And the same thing is true with any kind of shooting or dribbling or whatever. You want to make sure that you're putting yourself through that in different periods of conditioning.
Right.
Okay, this one is from Mark Rich, who is at MDR136 on Twitter. He says, what method do you use to teach younger shooters?
We teach the younger ones the same thing that we teach the older ones, except for maybe where the set point is. Younger players, and I'm talking about those who are 12 and under, sometimes 12-year-olds.
Younger than that, though.
Well, hang on a second. Sometimes 12-year-olds are strong enough that they can have a higher set point. But for the most part, up to about that period, we have them take and shoot with the set point being about chin high. And I'm just looking over the basketball. And the reason for that is that gives them a little bit more power that they can't really generate when they have the ball extended over their head. So all the mechanics are the same. We just teach it. The set point goes from here as opposed to being up here if you're 13, 14, 15 years old. Most of the older players can usually generate the distance and power and what they need up here by the time they're 14 or 15 years old.
And one of the mistakes that I think a lot of people make is that they have kids use inappropriate equipment for their body size and strength.
Yeah.
So a 6, 7, 8-year-old should not be shooting on a regulation basket with a regulation ball. it's not a good way for them to develop. I mean, it's not appropriate for their body size. So they should be using a smaller ball and at a smaller or shorter hoop.
Right. I'm pretty sure they make a junior ball, but I can't remember the dimensions of it.
Well, even if a kid starts with a mini ball, I mean,
Sure.
there's balls that step up to the eventual regulation size. I mean, that's a pretty big ball if you're a 6 or 7 year old, and then you're expected to heave it up 10 feet in the air.
Yeah.
That's not going to get any good mechanics, and they're not going to be able to dribble that very well. So what you want to do is kind of step them up progressively.
Yeah.
And there's going to definitely be a transition period when people move from a smaller ball to a bigger ball, but they're going to have built up the mechanics to be able to make that switch much easier than if they start off with that huge ball and they're trying to wing it up. That's why you see some really crappy mechanics sometimes from little kids, is that they just don't have the strength.
Well, that's part of it. And the other part of it is that, what I have found over the years, that it's really difficult to teach some young people how to shoot the basketball properly. And it has to do because of the lack of attention and focus when you're trying to develop some of these skills. It's really kind of difficult to do. And so that you get them started with a few things, and you kind of build on that as you go along. But it's really hard because of their focus. They'd rather go dribbling down the court and shoot up just a wild shot than to stand there for 2 or 3 minutes while you explain how to execute this particular move. So teaching younger people how to shoot is really kind of it's a real art. And what I find is that it's way less intensive than it is maybe for somebody who was 12 or 13 or 14 years old. And I have one student who's 8, and he's pretty good, but his attention span is really short.
Yeah, you got to make it fun and break it up.
Well, and let them have that time to dribble down the court and shoot some crazy shot, and then draw them back in and work some more. And then maybe they kick the ball against the fence and, okay, go get it. And having patience with those younger ones really pays a big dividend, because they don't have the focus of attention that older kids have.
Yeah, and sometimes when we've run camps, and I remember when we went to camps as kids and stuff, a lot of times the younger kids, they would work on some specific skill, and usually it's some pared down version or whatever of it, and then they would have some contest at the end of it, and kids look forward to that kind of stuff, and they might actually put some attention into what you're talking about when they know there's going to be this contest payoff or whatever at the end. So you have to be a little creative when you're working with little kids. You remember that they have a different body size and strength ability than kids that are 5-6 years older. So, and
a different mental focus than an adult has. And so that takes some real creative thinking on your part.
Okay, let's go into the chat down here. This one is from Cooper Rice, who says, I used to be a good free throw shooter. Now I'm missing a lot. Well,
why?
Yeah.
You should be asking yourself, why am I missing? What in this shot has changed, or what am I not getting run correctly to make me successful? And, one of the things that's really important on free throw shooting is you can examine, am I short? Am I right? Am I left? Am I long? And then once you kind of have that information that I'm consistently short, okay, maybe this is a power problem and I need to learn how to get my legs into it. If it's consistently right, well, then maybe what you're doing is finishing your wrist with a pronation to the right that is drawing the ball in that direction, or vice versa to the other side. So if you take and spend some time examining your shot, and this brings up the other point that we mentioned earlier today, and that is have someone video what you're doing, and have them video from the side and from behind and even from the front as you're executing that shot. So you can kind of look at your elements of your shot and see, okay, I think I understand now what's going on. But first of all, you have to examine and say, what is going on? Short, always, most of the time. Right, sometimes. Left, a lot of the time. And I'm really long all the time. Now, I'll tell you, one of the things about being long typically has to do with the fact that you are lunging when you shoot the basketball. In other words, you're trying to get more power just by lunging at the basket when you shoot. And that is probably going to make you long. flat and long. So
Okay, well, if we're talking about specifics of how you miss, go check out our video on Fix Your
Yeah.
Shot. That talks about that.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is this, is that lots of people, they just go through the motions when they're shooting, and when things go wrong, it's all over because they don't have any idea what to do or what's going on.
Yeah.
And they haven't put any time into figuring out how their shot should work or anything like that. They've
Right.
just put in going through the motions. One of the things that you want to do is, you don't want to do this during games, but you want to have part of your regimen when you're shooting during practice or whatever is spend some time evaluating what you're doing and how you're doing things. So if you're working on your free throw shooting, there should be a time where you step aside and you just work on your shot and you see how things are going. Am I short? Am I long? Am I off to the right or left? Am I getting proper extension of my shot? And kind of just evaluate what you're doing. You don't want to do that when you step into a game or do that every single time you're doing that in practice, because you do want to spend time where you're not putting much thought into it. You're just kind of going through and getting the right mechanics. But you have to have those refining periods where you spend time during practice and just kind of zone into what you're doing and evaluate it.
FIO. Figure it out.
Okay. This is from Andre Vela, who says, how to motivate my team. I'm often the victim of up to 4-on-1 fast breaks because I'm the only one who hustles back and forward in transition. I'm too short to actually stop them at the ring to try to make change, to try to take charges. Works sometimes, but but really my team walking back is unacceptable.
Well,
that should be on your coach mostly.
That is your coach's responsibility. You can play your buns off, and if the other guys are not buying into that, then there's nothing you can do about it. So either your coach needs to take that responsibility, or they need to understand that you're working as hard as you can, and they need to help you out.
Yeah, light a fire under those guys.
Yeah, but the whole thing comes down to if this is an organized team, your coach is responsible for that and dealing with it, and it's really hard for a player to do that.
Yeah, and the thing is, you don't want to go after those guys and denigrate them necessarily. What you want to do is get on them and say, hey, we got to get back on defense. You're leaving me out there to dry. And, maybe have a couple times where that is the case. And then, if your coach is not helping you out there, have a discussion with the coach. Just say, we need to get those guys back on defense. They're not running back and I'm the only one there and we're not getting any stops. So that is really how you should handle that. Also, you're going to find yourself in these situations a lot anyways. So you should get back and learn how to kind of stop those fast breaks. If you want to check out our fast break breaker, that's one of the things that we did a video on. Check that out and give that a try. But you can only play for you. And if your team is not getting together, you need to, help motivate them in a positive way and talk to your coach if that's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the Google Plus app. This is from Jasper, who says, how will I know when a shooting style fits me the best?
Well, that's a great question.
I would not call them shooting styles. I mean, I would say that you're kind of looking for the mechanics that best makes sense to you.
Right.
And style kind of comes out of how you apply those.
And everybody develops kind of their own style. We teach basic mechanics when we're teaching people how to shoot the ball. But in that, I know that everybody's going to be a little bit different in how they actually get it done.
But they're not basic. They're foundational is what
They're foundational. That's right. And being a solid foundation for helping you get the shot going is really important. And how do you make the determination? You need to take a look and see what is out there. And of course, we would feel very positive about the things that we do and we offer. So I would check out ours. And we're not much different than most of the really good basketball shooting coaches around the country. There's a few who are a little bit teach different things, but for the most part, we're very much in line with most of what everybody else teaches. And as soon as you find something, the elements that you feel good about, go ahead and get started on them. And what you'll find is that the shot will begin to take shape for you, and it won't happen in 2 or 3 days. Usually a development of an effective shot that you can use in a game is probably going to take you about 3 to 4 weeks to really be able to get that together.
Yeah, and for us, our major philosophy is always efficiency.
Yep.
Because if you have something that has tons of bells and whistles on it, you're adding in variables, and those variables will invariably go wrong at some point.
Yeah.
And it's all about efficiency, which leads to repeatability, which leads to accuracy, which obviously translates to buckets.
Yeah, and there's one other thing that's real important too. It makes sense. You know, one of the things that when I'm teaching people to shoot, that I usually start with this: everything that we're going to be talking about should make solid sense to you. If it doesn't, I want you to question it. Because everything that we teach has a basis that is built upon the idea that this is the best way to do it, and it's most efficient, and to use Casey's term again, ergonomically effective as well.
Yeah, I mean, we spent many years developing our shooting mechanics based off of biomechanics, physiology, experience, and kind of going through the scientific spectrum of how to put together these type of things. And you know, we work with lots of people on all of this stuff, and this is kind of the culmination of all the things we think are the best in terms of your shooting mechanics. And I know that my dad, who has been coaching for over 50 years, he would tell you that not just the kind of mainstream shooting mechanics have changed over that period of time, but probably his idea on all that stuff has changed over time as you know, the game has developed and things have evolved. So has all of the mechanics and stuff like that. So, you know, we are always trying to pick the best way or best approach to teach you guys. And, you know, we've kind of come to the point where we feel like our mechanics are the most efficient and best approach for us to share to you guys. So that's why we put that stuff out there for you. But you should always be evaluating and looking at the reasoning behind why we do that. And that's why in every single video that we put out there, we don't just tell you guys how to do stuff. We show you the why and kind of give you some background on that.
Right.
Okay, let's go back to the questions. This one is from Brian Kelly, who says, I'm a good shooter up to the free throw line, but then I don't have the range. I just missed. How can I improve my range? Form shooting drill.
Well, yeah, form shooting drill is really important. But if you're missing beyond the free throw line, and I think that's what you're really saying, is that you shoot pretty well up to that, and then beyond that, you don't have so much effectiveness. It's usually because you have a lack of power. And the lack of power, if you go to our videos and watch Make the Three-Pointer, Get Your Legs Into It, you will find that outlines how you use your legs effectively when you move away from the basket. And the other thing that's, you know,
not shot too.
Well, yeah, and the other thing that we can't really know, we don't know how old you are. If you're 10 or 11 years old, then maybe you're trying to shoot from beyond the range that you're capable of shooting. And so, yeah, I left this message with a young man yesterday: is if that's what your limits are, then that's where you stay until you feel like you can move back another 3 feet and then go some more. Because you're just going to take and sabotage yourself if you try to shoot longer. He was talking about shooting threes. Well, he was 12 years old and he was not ready to shoot threes. And so the point is that shoot from a distance where you feel like you're effective and where your shot mechanics are not being corrupted. By corrupted, I mean that you are racking your shoulders hard trying to get more power into it.
Right. Okay. Here's one from Nate Thompson, who is at Nate T_AF, who's here every week. He says, I'm finding I can dribble well and do moves like crossovers and in and outs well, but I cannot get past somebody or beat somebody. How do I explode into moves and get past the defender better?
Okay.
You have to sell it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the thing. And a lot of those moves deal with a plant and push footwork. And so what you want to make sure you're doing is that you're staying up on the ball of your foot. And when you plant it, you're essentially it's like almost like a little pogo stick where you plant and explode off of that foot. And those moves, like the crossover and the in and out, they all have to do with changes of speed and changes of direction.
Right.
So you have to sell that you're going one way at one speed, plant and push, and change the direction and change the speed.
And change the angle. One of the things that we oftentimes don't think about is the fact that in order to beat a defender, first off, we have to make them defend. If they're not defending hard, then it's almost impossible to beat them in a one-on-one situation. But if we attack them hard in one direction, they have no idea what you're going to do. Maybe you do a flat back attack, maybe you cross scissor or whatever. But the thing is that they're so busy trying to stop you from getting around them, maybe with a right hand, they're not ready for that counter move where you're actually going to take and scissor or cross to the opposite direction. So the key for me to beat people off the dribble is you first of all have to make them defend hard. And the only way you can do that is if you attack them hard. And we can't do a hard attack with one dribble. Does not work. It needs 2 or 3 dribbles where you really attack them hard, and they're really into that whole picture of trying to control you. And that's when you can usually counter them and go another direction effectively.
But these are dribbles with purpose too. They're not just flare dribbles.
Yeah.
And also, I would say, in terms of selling moves, something like the in and out is basically a counter of the crossover.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is make sure that that in and out looks like the crossover you did the time before, and you're selling that as a crossover.
Right.
And for the crossover, it's looking like you're just going in one direction. You plant and push, and you go the other direction. It's all about selling the move. Okay, this one is from Crazy Killa 277/quit. Interesting. He says, "Hey, coach, what's the best way to impress coaches in tryouts when there's lots of people around?"
Well, the first thing that we'll do is recommend that you go to our video, Make the Team. And right there, we specify the things that coaches are usually looking for from players who are trying to make the team. They certainly want to have some guys who have some skill. Maybe it's ball skills, maybe it's shooting skills, maybe it's both. But one of the things that probably makes you stand out from everybody else is if you exhibit effort. And effort is how hard you play. That's an element of basketball or most any sport that is going to set you aside from everybody else. And effort, an example of effort possibly would be this. There is a loose ball and it's 10 feet away, and there are 3 other guys going for the basketball. You're going to get there first, and you're going to collect that ball and get it back to one of your teammates. That's effort, where you just really go hard. There might be a situation where they've got a player on the team that is just an excellent player, but you're just going to take and make life so miserable for him because the effort that you put into defending him just shuts him down. So those are the kind of things that are really important.
Yeah, and a lot of times people think that if they exhibit all these impressive skills or do all these flashy moves, that's going to be something that's going to get the coach super amped on what they're all about. That is probably the worst way to approach a tryout.
Yep.
What you want to do is make sure that you are playing within your abilities and you're playing relaxed, and you've put in the effort in practice and all that to prepare yourself for it. But then you're exhibiting all these things like my dad is talking about in terms of effort, initiative, leadership, kind of an excitement to be there. You're the first guy in line for everything. You're helping the coach set things up if that makes sense. You're the first one there and the last one to leave. I mean, there's so many things to do. I mean, we have a bunch of videos on that stuff. So just check those out. But seriously, it's not about going out there and putting together your and one mixtape. It's really about a coach looking at you and thinking that guy would fit perfectly on my team here. Typically that's not the guy that's doing, all the crazy moves. It's the guy that has the awesome attitude, who is doing all the things that make the coach's job easier and also can play basketball.
There's another thing that comes into play for coaching as well, and that is usually kind of going in, they have a base group of people that they already know about. Maybe they played for him before, maybe they've seen him at school, whatever the reason. And there is room for other guys to come on the team. But what sometimes happens that kind of cuts other players out is the fact that maybe they have a glut or a lot of players who play in that particular position, and that makes it really difficult when you go in. And so you kind of have to examine that. But one of the things that you want to do is take a look at the videos there, Make the Team. And that kind of explains things that would hopefully help you a bunch.
Yeah. Well, going off of that, if you go in there thinking I'm a point guard, that's all I play, I just play point guard.
Yep.
You might find yourself not playing point guard on that team because there might be people that have already kind of got that spot situated or that are better than you or whatever. But if you go in there playing or go in there with the mentality that, I'm a basketball player, I'm going to exhibit all these skills a basketball player would put forth, then you might find your spot on the team, because what if there's an overabundance of point guards, but there's nobody to play the shooting guard? So you actually have an option to get there. And maybe it could be the difference between making the team and not making the team. It could be the difference between starting and playing most of the game and not starting and not playing most of the game, or whatever it is. You need to make sure that you are not pigeonholing yourself,
Right.
and give yourself the best opportunity. Okay. So if you guys have more questions, you better get them in quick, because we are rolling up on lightning time right here. But this one is from Nate Thompson again, who says, when I play pickup, people make me go left when that's my strong side, and I want to work on driving right because it's my weak side. Well, when you play pickup games, you don't have a choice unless you're working with these guys and you tell them that you need to work on this specific side. But that usually doesn't fly. If you want to work on developing that side of your abilities, you need to get in the gym and get somebody that's going to work with you specifically by yourself and help you develop that. Maybe it's a coach, maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your dad, maybe it's your brother, maybe it's whoever, and they're going to force you to go to that side. You can't expect guys to do that in a pickup game. They're going to play how they're going to play, and you have to deal with it. That's the way pickup games and any kind of game are. Right?
Yep.
Okay. This one is from Willie Will, who is at King Will 14, who says, as an assistant coach, I don't get respect like other coaches. I look younger than I am, and I see them and they see me as a friend instead. What can I do to change this? Last game, I realized I was the only coach yelling. It felt right, but awkward. Well, you can't get respect without earning it. And the thing is that you're going to have to deal with that kind of adversity all the time. And, maybe I know you started coaching really young.
I did.
And I've been in situations where maybe I didn't look like I should be doing the things that I was doing in terms of like coaching or whatever. But the thing is that you have to just put in, you have to not really worry about what other people are thinking and just do what you got to do. Right.
Well, yes. And, there's a key point here that I think is important for anybody in coaching. And that is, you have to draw a very succinct line between being friendly with your players and being the coach. And sometimes that's hard to do. They have to know that when you bark at them, you mean it. But they also, a good friend of mine who is really, really a good coach, he loves players, but he will be the first one to growl and give you a hard time if he thinks you're not getting the job done. And so he draws that line right there. But then when the practice is over, he'll go over and kind of push you around a little bit and chat with you and kind of kid and whatnot. But I think you need to establish that particular difference so that they know that there's sometimes, like during games, when you are serious and you're not playing games, and then that time maybe after practice where you're playing, you're shooting free throws against them, or you're taking wrestling around with them a little bit. But I think that's a fine line that coaches kind of have to learn, because I think that coaches who have friendship with their players, but yet the players know where that line is and they don't step over it. If they do, you step on their toes right away, and they learn where that line is. That sets you apart, and you will be recognized more of a coach in that situation. I suspect that you're probably kind of young and all of that. Now, one of the things that kind of go back and touch base on here too is that if you're yelling an awful lot during the game, I try not to do that. And the reason I don't do that is I don't want them focusing on what I'm doing or saying to them from the sideline, unless there is a timeout. It's a dead ball and I can speak directly to them. I found, and I kind of hold this, that the coaches who are the biggest yellers and screamers are the ones that know less about the game than they really do. And they are trying to project this picture of basketball knowledge by how much they yell and scream. And I've seen this so much in AAU basketball settings more than anything else. But I really have a ton of respect for those coaches who only say what they need to say when they need to say it, and not they're just constantly yakking. And so if I were you, I'd take it back off of that, especially if you're an assistant coach, and let the head coach do most of the barking. And you maybe during a timeout, you grab Billy and say, okay, Billy, this is something you've got to do, and this is how you need to do it. You did that in practice, so this is how you got to get done now, and let it go at that. And not try to be this, maybe pushing too hard to be more of a coach than really you need to at this point.
Yeah, and when it comes to coaches too, the good ones or great ones put in the work during practice, and they let their expectations be known there.
Right.
So when kids are out there on the court playing and they screw up, or they things aren't really going the way that they should, they know in their mind what the coach is thinking, and they don't need to look and turn at the coach that's turned red face and is just freaking out on them, because that also will take them out of the game.
Yeah.
And that's not something that you really want to be projecting into their mind anyway.
Well,
and you just look like an ass, really.
Well, and the other thing comes in, you've played basketball, or you wouldn't be coaching, certainly. And so that probably during the course of the game, there are a lot of times when you don't hear anything from that sideline. They could be yelling and screaming at you, but you don't hear it because you're so focused on what you're trying to get done. And that's why I think it's really makes more sense to, here's the timeout, wiping his face off, getting a drink of water, and you're talking in relatively quiet tones. Okay, look, when you closed out on that guy, you got too close and he was able to go by you. And just take those moments to give him bits of information rather than just a constant rant at him all the time.
Yeah, I mean, like we said,
this is part of learning how to coach too. Believe me, it's part of learning how to coach.
If you look at all the older coaches, or the coaches that have the most respect, the most wins, and all that stuff, they're always the guy that is just sitting there on the sideline. They're not freaking out. You don't watch Greg Popovich over there just losing his mind ever. He keeps it together. Maybe occasionally the refs get a little bit, but he is instilled in his players what he expects, what he wants them to do, and they know what their expectations are.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't know you or anything about you, but you're concerned about what it is that you're doing with your coaching, and you're going to turn out to be a really good coach because you're concerned about it.
Don't be so worried about your image, though. I mean,
yeah. Don't worry about that part of it. But this is a learning process, just like being a learning how to play basketball. That's a learning process, and learning how to coach is not something that you just automatically do. You have to learn how to do that.
All right, we're in the lightning round now,
right.
And so we gotta make short answers for all these questions that we can get to. Okay, this one is from Jasper, and there's a couple of them in here. We're gonna hit these real quick. On Google Plus, they say, what can I do on a 1-on-2 breakaway? Well,
are you on defense or offense?
Probably on offense if it's a breakaway. But I would say that there's a few things you can do. You want to get the ball as deep as you can yourself, and then use like a pass fake or a shot fake, and then a pass. I mean, you really have to neutralize that defender when they meet you. So if they meet you early, that's when you distribute the ball. If they wait, then you might just find yourself with a layup. You really got to push it, right?
Yeah. Well, and not necessarily push it right down the middle of the floor either. Some people will do that, but you want to get off the center line more if you're going to the basket.
If it's a 1-on-2, you definitely want to get the spacing from you guys. So
the closer you get when you are trying to attack a single defender, the easier it is for him to defend both of you. If you take and spread out, now it gets really difficult for that defender when you spread out.
Right. I mean, there's a ton of nuances to all that stuff, and but that's like the quick answer, really.
Yeah.
Okay. And then he says, what kind of moves can help create space to open a shot? We've got a whole series of videos on that. So go check out our attack videos or just our offensive move playlist.
Right.
Okay. This one is from Abrar M, who says, when you're in a basketball tryouts, what should you focus on? Go check out our videos on how to make the team and all the tryout videos. It's mostly things that are kind of come down to attitude and effort. Check those out. This is from Chris Bulls, who says, so last season I haven't played more than 2 games due to injuries. Today in the first minute of the first game, first game, I broke my nose. Do you think that some players are more injury prone than others, or is it bad luck? It's probably just coincidence.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad luck. I really don't think that.
One of the things, though, I mean, if you were getting similar injuries, like you were getting some kind of impact injury or straining a certain muscle over and over again, then I would think that you're probably in need of doing some functional training or conditioning, going and checking out stuff like Alan Stein's videos where he talks about preventing ankle injuries and knee injuries and stuff like that. But if you're just getting random things like hitting the nose or stuff like that, that's nothing you can really have any awareness for. Right. So, and there's no really such thing as luck. It's just coincidence.
Yeah, coincidence is really what it is.
This one is from Gilbert Gutierrez, who says, "What should you do when you're at the free throw line and need to be calm? What are some ways you could be confident when you shoot your free throws?"
Well, okay.
There's a couple of things, and we got to hit them quick because it's a lightning round.
One of the things that's really important, I think, is when you come to that free throw line, you take a moment where you take in a really deep breath, fill your lungs up with air, and then let it all out. And what that does, that has kind of a relaxing effect on your body. And then take a half breath and let's go.
And when you want to have a routine that you use every single time, that you practice thousands of times, and you want to just focus on the finish and focus on the basket. Anything else doesn't matter. You're not trying to scam those defenders into stepping into the lane. You're not trying to do everything. Is just focus on you. You're in the gym all alone putting that free throw in.
And a free shot is free. There's no defense.
Okay, this one is from Graham Hall, who says, "Hey guys, any general tips for game time situations for a point guard?" Okay, the 3 pillars of practice. You want to get your diligent, kind of dialed in practice where you're focusing on just putting all the mechanics together and you're doing everything really slow, getting the footwork, all that together. Pillar 2 is game speed, game intensity practice, which is what this addresses. You want to get everything that you did in the first pillar and apply it to game speed, game intensity so that you're ready to step into the game. Third pillar is actual game experience. So if you put all of those together, you will be prepared.
Well, one of the other things that goes along with that, we could write a book on things that you would need to do for game time situation for a point guard.
Yeah, I mean,
and so we can't just consolidate that into just a little half a minute discussion. So
three pillars. I'm telling you.
Well, yeah, that's important too. But we're going to take and put together some things that are really good points just for different positions as you get ready to play. That's on our list.
This is from Harris Ramnanovic, who says, any tips on how to recover from really bad jumper's knee and anterior shin splints? Thanks, really big fan.
Oh,
we are not doctors, so we cannot give you advice on that. You probably just, if it's painful and you really need to get that checked out by your doctor, you should do that. Physical therapy might be in your future. I mean, it's one of the things that rest and recovery is probably the biggest deal. So, but don't go off anything anybody other than an expert says in that area. Okay, this one is from Lee Iban Dahir, who says, I shoot the ball with my palm and it goes in a lot. Should I change it?
I have this kind of an adage that I use quite a bit, and that is, if it ain't broke, don't change it. However, we think that probably the best way to deal with shooting a ball is on the finger pads. And if it's working for you to shoot it off the palm, why change?
Right. Okay.
When it starts not working, then it's time for change.
But maybe it's the off season and you want to really work on having a different shooting mechanics.
That's the time to do it in the off season, however.
Yep. And this one is from let's see.
Killer.
No, we already did that one. Antonio Crisculo, who says, "Hey coach, what is the best way to get in front of your defender during a free throw?"
Well, that's another one of those things. It's all about footwork more than anything else, and timing.
Yeah, anticipation of the shot going up. It's there is a little bit of a experience arc there for sure.
The rules have changed this year for when you can step into the lane, and so I'm sure your coach is going to be explaining that to you before the season gets too far along.
Right. Okay. I've seen a couple of questions about how to be able to jump higher. Check out our vertical jump series. We've done some videos and the vertical jump handbook. Let's see. Last question here. This is, how do you keep a consistent form and keep knocking down the jump shot or 3-pointer? I told all my friends to come watch, by the way. Thanks. That's from Omar Khan.
Well, you know, to be consistent in knocking down those shots, it just takes practice, practice, and more practice, and just making sure you're practicing on the right things that are going to be the most successful for you. And it's that simple.
Repetitions.
Repetition, repetition, repetition.
Consistent repetitions.
Yeah, with good mechanics.
Yep. Okay.
And thanks for bringing your friends.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Okay, so you guys, that's going to do it for us today. If we didn't get to your questions, it's not because we didn't like you. It's just because we ran out of time. If you want us to answer those questions, make sure that you send them to us on Twitter. That is the best place. We are at Shot Science, or you can send them to us on Facebook, Google+. One of the best places to get us is if you find a video of ours that kind of relates to your question, post it in the comments there, and we usually get to as many people as we possibly can that way. Or you can show up next week for our live show at 1 p.m. Pacific time on Sunday. And, you know, we want to make sure that we get to everybody's questions. So don't feel like we just left you out, because we want to get to it. Make sure that you guys are following us on all those places: Twitter, Google+, Facebook. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We're Shot Science on all those things. Do you have anything else?
No, thanks for coming to us, guys. We appreciate it very much, and hopefully we've helped you a little bit.
Yeah, and we'll catch you guys next time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.